Like it's 5:08, we'll call the meeting to order. And just as a point of order, Mr. Smith, our attorney, is stuck in traffic. He is on speakerphone at the podium, so if we have questions of him, he's available. He should be able to hear what's going on when we're ready to make a motion and request his assistance. He'll be there. And Lisa's also present from the other room watching us. She's taking minutes on watching us on video. So the first order is approval of the minutes from our September 21st meeting, which we've received in the mail. Are there any additions or corrections? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion and a second? Or any discussion? All in favor? So motion carries unanimously. And tonight we have one public hearing, being Walter and Patricia Arnold have applied for a variance on a property containing 0.511 acres located at 217 Vale Drive, Danville, Kentucky. The property is zoned two-family residential, RM2. And Steve, I will turn it over to you for staff report.
Yep, so we have a variance request, and it's somewhat straightforward, but there's a couple of plat particular issues that necessitated the variance and a plat revision if the variance is successful. This is the street view from Google, and they're typically dated, so it's kind of interesting because the property looks, as you saw, some gardens, and in that fashion. There's actually now a duplex constructed on the property, and you can see that right there. This is off the PVA's website, and you can see that the aerials are current on the PVA site. You can see there's a duplex at the rear portion of the property. What the property owner wants to do, that's a zoomed in shot there of the duplex. What the property owner wants to do is construct a second duplex in this location. And you can see there's a creek that runs through the property, and the property's kind of odd shaped. This was two lots that were put together. And his goal is to put a second duplex. In the general area, this is the address of his duplex. There are duplexes kind of in this neighborhood, as well as some single family. Some of those duplexes are on one lot. Some of those are platted on single lots. The requirement for duplexes is that there be at least 10,000 square foot minimum lot size to have one building. And if you have a larger lot, you can have more than one duplex as long as you have at least 10,000 square foot per building. So this is the RM2 chart in the zoning ordinance. If you were doing a difference between a duplex and a twin home is actually each side is a platted, sellable or purchasable lot. So you could put a twin home and put a firewall down the middle, and you could actually sell each side. A duplex is one building that's rented with two units on one piece of property or multiple duplexes. And then you see there's where the 10,000 square foot threshold comes in, that you need at least 10,000 square foot for each duplex you plan to construct. So that's, and then the setback that we're dealing with tonight is the 25-foot front setback that the applicant is asking to vary by 5 feet. This is the exhibit that AGE turned in, and this shows that difference of the 25-foot setback and what the applicant's asking to go to 20 foot, which would be a 5-foot variance, to slide the building 5 foot forward. And the whole issue is the creek is right here. And it's pretty close where the 5 foot could work, but the property owner does not want the back corner or anywhere close to the edge of that creek, and wants to be able to have a good kind of backyard patio space for each unit. So his desire to make it work was to request the 5 foot variance and move this building to the 20-foot mark, as opposed to meeting the 25-foot standard front yard setback. And I don't speak out of turn, but I believe that's a gas line too, right? Guys back there, that shows so there's a gas line that runs through the property as well as the creek. So you can see the shape of the property is kind of odd, and this was actually two different lots, and this lot was almost unusable It was replatted, and the first duplex was built to the rear, and the idea is to build a similar structure that you see right there up in the front yard setback. Everything's in your staff report, pretty straightforward. The review criteria is on, in your staff report. Again, you can add conditions to variance. It's not normal, but you are allowed to do that by way of our zoning ordinance. Our findings are outlined in the staff report, as well as our cookie cutter motion on the last page. The variance was needed before the plat could be revised. If the variance is successful, the applicant still needs to revise the plat from the 25-foot to the 20 and put the note about the variance on the plat. The plat actually has a deeper setback platted that was a optional platted setback that also has to be revised. So the plat needs some housekeeping if the variance is successful, and that would go before the Planning Commission at a later date. I don't think I have any other exhibits on there other than, yeah, that exhibit there. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Mr. Arnold's here, and AGE Engineering representatives in the back, too. I'll be glad to answer any questions you guys might have. Yes, sir.
Does the creek create a wetland issue on that property?
I'd have to let them speak to the creek. We'll let one of those guys. So the question is, does the creek create a wetland? I'm not familiar with what the creek is. I can show you on our zoning map, though. No floodplain is showing up from the FEMA floodplain. None are showing up on our zoning layer in this general area. But I'm not familiar with what the creek actually is and how it stands. So I'll let Dale answer that.
This is not actually a blue line stream. It's really not considered a creek. It's more of a drainage. It's a drainage area. I'm not saying that there's, of course, when it's raining, there's water flowing in it, but right now there's not anything there. It's so right up from the creek it's all dry. It's all dry. There is like I say, that blue line right there is basically the width of that drainage area is probably 3 feet at the most. But of course, Quince has been there. He's owned this lot for several years, and as Steve said, it's not in a floodplain. There is a head wall right there in the bend of the curve, and the water, it never gets over that head wall right there. So hopefully that'll answer your question.
Any issues with respect to the pipeline?
No.
I keep forgetting how big an area you have to have.
Can you go back to the plat? Okay, the pipeline there that you see, the pipeline is in the center, and there's...
Is that the yellow one?
The yellow one, and it's 25 foot either side of that pipeline is their easement. So there will be no conflict with the pipeline. Now, in years past, there was some type of ordinance that was passed at some point that the pipeline was actually double. Planning and zone, somebody, I don't know what the ordinance, who actually did that, but they actually doubled that easement, but that has since been rescinded. So that is actually the easement for the pipeline, and it is not we won't have to do anything to disturb any part of the pipeline. And then the other orange line you see that's sort of diagonal, that's a sanitary sewer line for the city.
I can explain that in a little more detail, I guess. So the prior zoning ordinance had an additional setback when there was a pipeline from the easement. So there's a platted easement for the pipeline. In the old zoning ordinance, there was an amendment made that made you stay another 25 foot back off the easement. That language was kind of deleted from the ordinance and substituted with the new hazardous pipeline ordinance, which is a lot more detailed, and those standards really aren't for this developer building next to a pipeline. That standard is if a pipeline's coming in, what it has to do away from everybody else. And that's only if it's a hazardous pipeline as defined by you know, a liquid gas. If it's just a gas line, we can construct right up to the easement, and you can even do parking and pavement over that easement with the permission of the utility. So the construction can go right up to the gas line easement. At some point, those structures deter the pipeline from ever becoming a hazardous pipeline, because they then would have to adhere to hundreds of feet of setback from the development that then occurs.
And it looks like the driveway runs over that.
Yes, I believe it. I believe
Yes,
it.
the driveway for the existing one does. Now, the new driveways for this future duplex, we will not affect the gas pipeline at all. But yes, and we had to go through the Tennessee Gas in order to get that driveway installed. But in this case, we're not even going to get close to the easement.
Good.
Well, I think there'll be two spaces basically per unit. And again, it won't affect any, that will not be on the easement. That'll be in what looks all will be green now. There'll be a drive on the left side for the left side of the unit, and a drive on the right for the right side of the unit. That's right. We're not going to put it.
It'd be side doors instead of back doors.
Yes.
Because the distance between it and the creek. So they have a patio and stuff on the sides. You get in out to the kitchens or whatever, on the barbecue or whatever.
So actually, I'm sorry. So actually, the front side, you're saying would be like the
Would you
main area?
come to the mic?
So on the road, you be like the main area?
Yes, it'll just be grass, except for the drives on the side, you know.
Yeah, I'll put covers in and put the drives on each side, put head walls on them and everything, so they have plenty of parking. Plus, they need space for a deck or a patio or something, you know, for cookouts. So it'll all be on the side, not on the back. One end of it is far enough from the creek, but the other was too close, so I just decided to put the doors on the side and the kitchens come out the sides rather than the back. But I'll have two entrances, front entrance and a back entrance.
And then he'll also put a little landscaping in.
Yeah,
front
and
of
then I
it.
landscaped that other one between them, then I put canopies over each door to catch the water in back and front both. And what you see behind that is a big retaining wall. I had to put a retaining wall in there. Then that red dark color is the patio decks, and then the other is pea gravel to each side of it for evergreens or whatever. It's a nice way to build apartments, duplexes. It looks, I mean, I bricked the front of that one, and this other one will have man-made stone on the front of it, up 8 foot, to give it a good look.
So just a minute of housekeeping that we didn't do before. Mr. Arnold, for the record, would you just state your name and your address?
All right, my name is Walter Quince Arnold. And what else do you ask for?
Your address?
Address 898 West Count Fleet Circle, Danville, Kentucky, 40422.
And your testimony was true and accurate to the best of your
I
knowledge?
do.
Thank you. Sorry, that just gets it on tape and
That's
gets it
fine,
for
no
the record.
problem.
And Steve will get me if I don't do my job. Are there any more questions from the board? Do you all have any other testimony for the board?
If you have any questions of me, I'll be glad to answer them.
So at this point, we'll close the public portion of the hearing and open deliberations.
Again, we've got our attorney here on speaker, and on the last page of your staff report is the suggested motions to approve or deny.
I just want to make one point about the pipeline, is I think granting this motion actually moves construction farther away from the pipeline. So, any further discussion from the board? Is there a motion to be made?
I'm ready to make a suggestion. I didn't hear the motion.
There hasn't been a motion made yet.
Okay.
So I move that we approve the request to give them the 5-foot variance from the original setback of 25 feet. See, it's a creating a nuisance as we're going to get a situation like that. Henry, how's that sound?
That sounds good. Can the board members hear me?
Yes.
My suggested addition is this. While zoning and lot size would accommodate the proposed second duplex, natural features and encumbrances across the site would limit design features which enable the standard of living common among other nearby residences. Thus, the variance is justified because strict application of the ordinance would limit the reasonable use of the property.
I was thinking about saying it, but I wasn't 100% sure on the word.
I think that's what you meant, right?
What I meant, so.
And just please also pass along my thanks to the board for this indulgence during my vote.
All right. Thank you as always, Henry. Is there a second? A motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? And motion passes unanimously and the variance is granted. And that concludes our public hearings. Is there any old business to come before the board?
Nope.
Any new business? Any announcements?
None from the staff.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made and second. Any discussion? All in favor?